The grand palace of the Zirath Empire stood beneath twin moons, shining with silver and blue light. Its crystal towers touched the sky, and the wind carried songs of ancient victory. Tonight was not an ordinary night. It was the choosing ceremony, the moment where Queen Seraphine would select her new royal protector. Thousands of alien warriors stood in the main hall, wearing armor forged from stardust. They came from distant planets, scaled reptilians with glowing eyes, tall silver-skinned knights, sharp-winged Valkrans with blades for arms, and silent shadow creatures that moved like mist. Every one of them was powerful, trained, and ready to die for the queen. But among them stood one figure who looked nothing like the rest. A human. He wore no shining armor, only simple dark clothes. His hair was brown, a little messy, and a thin scar ran across his cheek. His name was Elias Ward. Compared to the other warriors, he seemed small and fragile. His hands were not covered in claws, his skin did not glow, and he carried no weapon. Many laughed quietly when they saw him. Why is a human here? Did he get lost on the way to a farm planet? He will faint before he even touches a sword. But Elias stood still, calm like a silent lake. His brown eyes did not show anger or fear. He simply waited. Then the great silver doors opened. The music stopped. The air turned still. Queen Seraphine entered. She was tall and graceful, her skin pale with a faint violet glow. Her silver hair flowed like moonlight, and her eyes, sharp, deep violet, could break or heal a soul with a single look. A crystal crown, ancient and powerful, rested on her head. She walked with dignity, her steps quiet but full of command. Every creature in the hall bowed. She did not smile. She had not smiled in years. After losing her family in the Great War, she locked her heart behind walls of duty and silence. Her people feared her strength, but they did not know her pain. Now, it was time to choose the one who would stand beside her, not as a friend, but as a shield between her and death. The sacred crystal crown would glow when it felt the right soul. Queen Seraphine walked slowly along the line of warriors. One by one, she looked into their eyes. The crown remained silent, cold. Then she stopped. In front of Elias, their eyes met. For a moment, she saw no fear, no greed, no desire for power. Only calm strength. She raised her hand and placed it over his heart. The hall held its breath. The crown began to glow, soft at first, then brighter, like a star waking from sleep. A soft hum filled the air. The ancient magic had made its decision. Gasps echoed. The crown chose. A human? This must be a mistake. He cannot protect her. Queen Seraphine's heart beat faster. She did not understand why, but she felt something in him. Something deep. Hidden like thunder behind quiet clouds, she spoke. Her voice strong but soft. Elias Ward of Earth, do you accept the bond of protection? Elias slowly went down on one knee. His voice was calm. I accept. My life is yours to command, my strength yours to shield. Until my last breath. Somewhere inside her chest, something warm moved. Something she had buried long ago. The council members stepped forward in protest. Your Majesty, humans are weak. He is not trained for royal wars. This will bring shame to the Empire. But the Queen raised her hand and silence returned. The crown has chosen, and so have I. Elias stood, now marked by the royal bond. His life was no longer his own. As the ceremony ended and the hall slowly emptied, Queen Seraphine walked past him without another word. Yet her mind was full of questions. Why did the ancient magic choose him? What secret did this quiet human carry behind his calm eyes? She did not know. But fate had already begun to move. The days after the choosing ceremony were heavy with silence and whispers. The palace of Zirath was a place of shining beauty. Tall crystal corridors, floating lanterns glowing softly at night, golden bridges between towers. But Elias could feel the coldness behind its beauty. Every step he took, he felt eyes watching him. Servants paused to stare. Guards whispered when he walked by. That's him, the human the Queen chose. He looks so ordinary. Maybe the crown was broken. What can a human do against the enemies of the Empire? Elias heard their words, but he never reacted. He walked with quiet dignity, staying behind Queen Seraphine like a shadow. He didn't complain. He didn't show anger. He simply observed. Every corner of the palace, every exit, every face that looked dangerous. Queen Seraphine rarely spoke to him. She was a queen of mountains and storms, silent but strong. She worked from morning to night, signing treaties, studying star maps, meeting generals, and preparing for the growing threat of the Dravok Empire. Sometimes when she passed him in the halls, her violet eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, she wanted to ask him something. But then she looked away. Her heart was a locked door, and she didn't know how to open it. One evening, after a long meeting in the war chamber, she sat alone on her balcony, watching the two moons rise. The wind was gentle, but her thoughts were not. The weight of the empire rested on her shoulders. Suddenly, there was a soft sound behind her. "Elias." "You should rest, Your Majesty," he said quietly. She didn't turn to face him. A queen does not rest when her people are in danger. There was silence for a moment. Then Elias said something she did not expect. "And who protects the queen when she is tired?" She turned her head slightly. His face was calm, but his words carried warmth, not duty. "You speak boldly for someone who just arrived," she replied. "I speak honestly," Elias said. "You carry everything alone. Even a mountain can break under too much weight." Queen Seraphine looked away again. No one had spoken to her like that in years. "You do not understand what it means to be queen?" she whispered. Elias stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. "Maybe not, but I understand what it means to be alone." His words struck her heart like a soft arrow. Before she could speak, a voice echoed from behind. "Your Majesty." General Rykar, a tall warrior with silver armor, walked in with 3 council members. Their eyes narrowed at Elias, but they ignored him. "Forgive us for interrupting," the general said, "but we must discuss the matter of your protector." Queen Seraphine stood, her posture cold and royal. "Speak!" One of the council members, an elder with dark blue skin, stepped forward. "The empire is uneasy. A human guards the throne while powerful warriors stand unused. This decision is dangerous for our reputation." General Rykar added, "Your Majesty, allow us to test him. If he passes, we accept him. If he fails, we replace him." For a moment, the queen was silent. She looked at Elias. He didn't look afraid. He didn't speak. He only nodded as if he was waiting for this moment. Finally, she said, "Very well. Tomorrow at sunrise, he will face the trial grounds." The council members bowed, satisfied, and left. Elias remained still. Queen Seraphine looked at him again, something unreadable in her eyes. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked. He nodded. "They want to see if I am worthy to stand beside you. And if you fail, you could die." Elias gave a small, gentle smile. "Then I will not fail." For the first time in many years, she felt a small spark of faith. But fear was there too. As Elias turned to leave, she found herself saying softly, "Elias." He paused. "Yes, Your Majesty?" She looked at him, her voice low. "Be careful," he bowed slightly. "Always." As the night grew darker and the stars whispered across the sky, the queen stood alone on the balcony, her heart beating faster than before. She chose him. But now, the world would decide if her choice was a mistake or destiny. The morning came with a cold breeze and a pale golden sky. The twin suns were just rising as Elias walked towards the trial grounds, a wide arena made of white stone and ancient carvings. This was the place where only the strongest warriors of the Zeroth Empire trained, bled, and proved their honor. Crowds gathered around the arena. Soldiers, nobles, servants, everyone wanted to see if the human would survive. Queen Seraphine stood on a high balcony, her expression calm but her heart uneasy. She wore a silver cloak, and her violet eyes never left Elias as he stepped into the center of the arena. General Rykar stood beside her. "Your Majesty, if he fails, I will personally assign you the finest warrior in the galaxy." She did not answer. Her gaze remained on Elias. In the arena, 5 elite warriors stood in a circle around him. They were chosen from different races, each one trained since childhood for war. Their weapons glowed under the morning sun. The announcement echoed through the air. "Elias, Ward of Earth. To be accepted as royal protector, you must defeat or endure these 5 warriors." "No weapons, no armor, only your strength," the crowd murmured. Many expected the human to surrender, but Elias only breathed slowly and said, "I am ready." The first warrior, a giant reptilian named Korath, charged with a roar. His scales were thick, his claws sharp. He swung his fist like a hammer. Elias moved, not with power but with calm speed. He stepped aside, letting the punch hit only air. The ground cracked where Korath's fist landed. Elias lightly touched the warrior's arm and whispered, "Too open." Then he struck. Just once. A precise hit to the elbow joint. Korath fell to one knee, his arm numb. The crowd gasped. The second warrior, a winged Valkyran with blades for arms, flew into the air and dove at Elias like a falling star. Her speed was incredible. Elias rolled to the side, dust rising around him. Her blade skimmed his sleeve, cutting fabric but not skin. She attacked again, faster. Elias waited, then caught her wrist at the perfect moment. With a soft push, he used her own force against her. She tumbled, wings scraping the ground. The third and fourth warriors attacked together, one with fire, one with shadow. Flames curled around Elias. Shadows tried to bind his feet. For the first time, Elias's eyes hardened. He stepped through the fire like it was only warm wind. He punched the ground once. Dust exploded into the air, breaking the shadow chains. Then he used the sand to blind the fire warrior and silently disarmed the shadow fighter with a twist of the wrist. Only one warrior remained. He was not the strongest, but the most dangerous, a mind reader able to see thoughts before they became actions. His eyes glowed blue as he stared at Elias. "You cannot hide from me," he said. "I see your every move before you make it." Elias stood still. His heartbeat slowed. His mind became quiet like deep water. Then, nothing. The mind reader's eyes widened. He saw no thoughts, no plans, only silence. How? Elias moved faster than breath and gently tapped his neck. The warrior collapsed, unharmed but unable to stand. Silence filled the arena. Even the wind seemed to stop. Elias stood alone in the center, his chest rising and falling calmly. Not a single drop of blood touched him. Queen Seraphine's fingers curled against the stone railing. Her heart was beating fast. General Rykar whispered in disbelief, He defeated them all. But the trial wasn't over. Without warning, a massive gate opened. The ground trembled. From the darkness came a creature 8 feet tall with horns like black steel and red eyes burning with rage. A royal behemoth used only in final trials. Even elite warriors feared it. The crowd screamed. The council members stood in shock. Queen Seraphine turned to the general. "Stop this. He has already proved himself." But it was too late. The beast roared and charged. Elias closed his eyes for a second as if listening to something inside his soul. Then he opened them. And this time, there was a faint light in them. The royal behemoth's roar shook the trial grounds. Dust rose into the air and the sound of trembling stones echoed across the arena. Soldiers held their breath. Even Queen Seraphine, standing on her balcony, gripped the railing with white-knuckled hands. She had seen countless warriors face the behemoth and most had fallen in seconds, but Elias did not move backward. He stood in the center, calm as a still lake, his brown eyes fixed on the massive creature. He did not reach for a weapon, nor did he try to dodge. Instead, he simply breathed, slow, steady, controlled. The behemoth charged. Its massive horns gleamed, eyes burning red with anger. The ground cracked beneath its weight. Dust and stones flew like arrows, and the crowd screamed in terror. Elias did not flinch. The behemoth swung a horn at his head. In the next moment, Elias seemed to vanish. Some said they saw a blur. Others claimed he stepped between shadows. When he reappeared, he was behind the beast. With a single touch to its back, a surge of energy, silver and white, spread through the monster's body. The crowd gasped. The behemoth froze, a low growl vibrating through the air. Queen Seraphine's eyes widened. This was no human skill. Not speed, not strength. Something deeper. Something ancient. Elias stepped forward. Light began to glow faintly beneath his feet, crawling up his legs like silver fire. His chest, where the sacred bond rested, shimmered with energy. His veins glowed softly. The air around him pulsed with power that was quiet but undeniable. The behemoth lunged again, faster than ever. Elias did not move. He raised a hand. The creature slammed into him, but he did not flinch. Instead, he absorbed the impact. The ground beneath him cracked, but he stood firm. The shock of the collision spread out like ripples in a pond, but Elias remained untouched. Then he whispered something. It was not a human language, not even a language of the stars. It was older, so old that it carried the weight of countless worlds. The behemoth froze. Its eyes blinked once, then twice, and then it fell to its knees. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Soldiers, nobles, and even generals fell silent. Queen Seraphine's heart raced. She felt her breath catch in her throat. Elias did not strike the beast. He did not shout. He simply raised his hand again. The silver energy spread and the behemoth crumbled into dust, harmless and gone. The arena was quiet. The dust settled. Elias stood there glowing faintly, breathing slowly as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Queen Seraphine could not look away. Her violet eyes shimmered, her mouth slightly open. For the first time in years, she felt awe and fear that she had never known. He had done the impossible. General Rykar whispered, voice trembling, It cannot be. How is this human? Queen Seraphine held up a hand to silence him. She could not speak. Her mind was filled with a strange mix of emotions, disbelief, admiration, and something warmer. Something she had tried to bury for a long time. Elias turned his eyes toward her. In those calm brown eyes she saw not arrogance, not pride, but responsibility. He had not done this to show off. He had done this to protect. To fulfill his bond, her chest tightened. She had chosen him because of a feeling, a quiet intuition. And now she knew she had chosen correctly. The remaining warriors and council members slowly approached, eyes wide, mouths open. They had expected fear, weakness, perhaps failure. Instead, they saw power beyond imagination, control beyond reason, and courage that could not be measured in mere strength. Elias lowered his glowing hands. The light faded, returning him to ordinary human form. He breathed softly, almost humbly. Queen Seraphine's voice broke the silence. Step forward, Elias Ward, stand before me. He obeyed without hesitation. As he came closer, she felt her heart pound, not with fear, but with something new. Awe, respect, and a quiet, unspoken trust. You are unlike anything I have ever known, she whispered almost to herself. Elias bowed his head slightly. I exist to protect you, Your Majesty. That is all that matters, and in that moment, the entire palace, the trial grounds, and the hearts of everyone who had doubted him shifted. Queen Seraphine realized that power was not only measured in size, strength, or weapons. Power could also be quiet, hidden, ancient, and it could come from a human. She had chosen a protector, yes, but in truth she had chosen a force beyond imagination, and she would never look at a human or the universe the same way again. The trial grounds were quiet now. Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny stars, and the crowd slowly began to move away, whispering and staring. Even the generals who had doubted Elias from the start could not hide their astonishment. He had faced the royal behemoth, an impossibly strong creature, and emerged unharmed, glowing with a power none had believed a human could hold. Queen Seraphine remained on the balcony, her violet eyes fixed on him. She had expected skill, perhaps courage, but what she had witnessed was beyond anything in her memory or history. She wanted answers, and deep down, she knew only Elias could give them. Later in the quiet of the palace, she summoned him to the private chambers. The room was bathed in soft violet light from the crystal windows. The city below glittered like scattered jewels, but for a moment, the queen and her human protector were alone, and the weight of the world seemed to vanish. Elias, she said softly, her voice carrying more curiosity than command. What are you? Elias knelt before her, as was custom, but this time his eyes met hers fully. There was no hesitation, no fear, only honesty. My ancestors were protectors of the galaxies long before humans forgot their history, he began, voice calm, steady. We were warriors, scholars, and guardians, but we were hunted, scattered, and forced to hide our strength. Humanity grew weak, but some of us remembered. Some of us trained quietly in secret. Queen Seraphine listened, her heart beating faster. She had faced many creatures, seen countless forms of power, but she had never heard of anything like this. I trained, he continued. While the universe ignored Earth, I learned patience, control, and discipline. I learned to fight without weapons. I learned to listen to the energy of the world, and to channel it when necessary. He paused, and she could see the weight of truth in his expression. I never sought glory. I never sought recognition. I only sought to protect what is important. And when the crown chose me, I understood that I would protect you no matter what. Queen Seraphine felt a strange warmth inside her chest. She had seen warriors, kings, and gods, yet none had ever spoken to her like this. There was humility in his words, strength in his calm, and a promise that went beyond mere duty. "You could have revealed your power earlier," she whispered, almost accusingly. "You could have made them all see what you are from the start." Elias shook his head. "Power without control is dangerous. I could not risk it. Not here, not yet. When the threat is real, do I reveal it. Only when you are in danger do I unleash what must be unleashed." The Queen's eyes softened. She felt something she had not felt in years, trust, pure and unshakable. And fear, strangely, had turned into something else, admiration. "You are extraordinary," she said, almost in a whisper. "But why me? Why the Queen? Why choose to protect someone who has everything yet is alone?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because you are more than a queen. You are a force the universe respects, feared even, but you carry burdens no one else sees. You have strength, but it is alone. I can give you something you deserve, someone to share the weight." She looked down at him, a mixture of awe and emotion filling her chest. Her violet eyes glimmered with tears she refused to shed. For centuries she had known solitude, feared weakness, and trusted only her crown. Yet here, kneeling before her, was a human who asked for nothing, demanded nothing, and offered everything. "You have hidden this from the world," she said softly, "yet here you stand, more powerful than anyone I have ever known." I am in awe." Elias bowed his head. "I exist to serve, to protect, to ensure you live. That is my truth, my purpose." For the first time, the Queen felt a strange sense of relief, a warmth in her heart that had long been frozen. She realized that strength was not only measured by size, speed, or weapons. Sometimes the greatest strength was quiet, unseen and unwavering. Sometimes it came in the form of a human who carried ancient power in his soul. Queen Seraphine reached out, placing a delicate hand on his shoulder. The touch was light, but it carried more meaning than words ever could. "You have earned not only my respect," she said softly, "but something far rarer. I trust." Elias looked at her, eyes calm, gentle, and unwavering. "Then I will not fail. Not for you. Not for the Empire. Not for anyone." And in that quiet chamber under the twin moons of Zirath, the Queen understood something profound. She had chosen a protector unlike any other. And the human she had chosen had already changed her world forever. The peace of the palace was shattered before sunrise. Alarm bells echoed through the towers, their sound harsh and urgent. Queen Seraphine's violet eyes snapped open. Outside, the sky was dark with approaching shadows. Thousands of enemy ships of the Dravok Empire, cutting across the twin moons like shards of black glass. Soldiers ran through the halls, weapons drawn. Alarms blared, and the city trembled under the distant roar of engines. The Dravok Empire had come, not with words, not with diplomacy, but with destruction. Their goal was simple: capture the Queen and conquer the Zirath Empire. Queen Seraphine rose from her chamber balcony, her silver cloak flowing behind her. She felt the familiar weight of duty, but for the first time she did not feel alone. Elias was behind her, calm, watching, breathing steadily, ready. "The palace is theirs by numbers," General Rykar shouted, appearing beside her. "We are outmatched." Seraphine's voice was steady. "We have Elias, that is all we need." Elias stepped forward, placing himself between the Queen and the battlefield. His presence was a calm center in the storm, and even the soldiers felt courage return. The first wave of Dravok warriors landed in the courtyard. Dark-skinned, armored, and cruel, they moved like a river of blades. The palace guards met them, but even the strongest fell beneath sheer numbers. Screams echoed and fire erupted in the corners of the courtyard. Queen Seraphine's heart pounded as she watched soldiers fall, and then she saw the massive silhouette of the Dravok behemoth, a creature even greater than the one at the trial grounds. Its red eyes burned with rage, and its claws tore through the palace walls. Without hesitation, Elias moved forward. He did not fight like a human. He moved with precision, speed, and strength that no warrior could match. Each strike was deliberate. Each motion flowed like water. He disarmed enemies before they could reach the Queen. He protected soldiers as though they were his own kin. Queen Seraphine could hardly breathe. She had seen him face powerful creatures before, but this battle, this scale, was unlike anything. The courtyard shook with each step, each strike. Yet Elias remained calm, his glowing veins of silver light appearing faintly beneath his skin as he channeled energy with every movement. A Dravok commander, riding a massive war beast, leaped toward the queen. His spear aimed for her heart. Time slowed. Seraphine gasped. Elias moved faster than her eyes could follow. He caught the spear, twisting it harmlessly, and sent the commander tumbling with a precise push. Without a word, he returned to her side. "Stay behind me," he said softly, almost tenderly. She hesitated. "No, you are not," but he shook his head. "You are my responsibility, Your Majesty. I will not let them touch you." The queen's chest tightened. She had faced armies, monsters, and assassins, but never had she felt so vulnerable. Yet in that vulnerability she felt trust. Absolute trust. The Dravok warriors pressed on, waves of darkness crashing like a storm. Elias met each one with unwavering calm. He moved with the power of a tempest contained in a human frame, energy rippling through his strikes. Yet every time he glanced at Seraphine, his gaze was gentle, reassuring. Then, the enemy commander unleashed a new weapon, a massive black spear, infused with dark energy. It struck Elias in the shoulder. He stumbled, a thin line of blood appearing, but he did not fall. The pain was real, yet he continued to fight, deflecting enemies and protecting the queen with every ounce of strength. Seraphine's eyes burned with emotion. "Elias, stop! You will die!" He looked at her, sweat and blood on his face, and smiled faintly. "I am alive for you, Your Majesty. That is all that matters." She felt tears sting her eyes, and for the first time she stepped forward, not as a queen, but as someone who cared deeply. Her hands found his shoulder. "Then live," she whispered. "For me?" He nodded once, and with that quiet agreement he rose again. His eyes glowed brighter than before. Energy spread outward like a rising sun, pushing back the Dravok soldiers, blinding their weapons, and scattering their ranks. The queen watched, heart pounding, as the human she had chosen, the one they all doubted, became a storm of power and protection. And in that moment, she realized the truth. He was not merely strong. He was extraordinary, beyond fear, beyond legend, and he was hers to protect, and she was his to shield, if he ever willed it. The courtyard was silent now, except for the soft crackle of burning debris and the distant cries of the wounded. Smoke coiled into the morning sky, carrying the scent of victory and loss. The Dravok army had fallen back, retreating in chaos after witnessing what they could not comprehend. Elias stood in the center of it all, surrounded by shattered stone and broken armor. His body trembled from exhaustion, blood staining his arm and chest, but his eyes were calm, glowing faintly with that strange silver light that had terrified the enemy. He looked less like a man now and more like something between mortal and divine. Queen Seraphine descended the palace steps slowly. Her royal cloak was torn, her crown gone, yet her presence carried a different kind of power, quiet, human, and strong. She looked at Elias, her heart heavy with emotions she could no longer hide. He turned to her, giving a tired smile. "It's over, Your Majesty." She stopped a few steps away, her voice trembling. You saved us all." He shook his head softly. "No, you saved me first. The day you chose me, you gave me purpose. Without that, I am nothing." The words hit her like a storm. She remembered that day, the day she had chosen the human no one believed in. Everyone had laughed. Everyone had doubted. But she had seen something in him, something no one else could. And now, standing before her, that same human had changed the fate of her empire. Seraphine walked closer. "Elias, what are you truly?" He looked down at his hands, the faint glow fading. "I don't know. Maybe I was made to fight, maybe to protect. But with you I found something more than duty. I found reason." Her heart ached at his words. She reached out slowly, placing her hand on his chest, feeling the faint rhythm beneath. "And what reason is that?" His gaze lifted, meeting hers. "To protect what I love." Silence fell. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The wind brushed past them, carrying ashes and petals alike. Seraphine felt warmth rise in her chest, something rare for a queen raised to hide her heart behind duty. The surviving soldiers watched from a distance, some whispering prayers, others bowing in respect. They had seen what the human had done, how he had stood against an army alone, how his power had turned the tide of destruction into hope. But Queen Seraphine saw more than power. She saw his pain, the exhaustion in his limbs, the loneliness in his eyes hidden behind courage. She knew then that his strength wasn't born from fury but from love. She stepped closer, her voice softer. "You are not alone anymore, Ilias." His lips curved faintly. "You make it sound like a promise." "It is," she whispered. Before he could reply, the ground beneath them shook again. From the horizon, a massive shadow appeared, the Dravok mothership rising like a mountain of steel. The enemy was not done. Seraphine's eyes widened, but Elias only closed his for a brief moment. When he opened them again, they burned brighter than before, pure silver light dancing like lightning. "Stay back," he said gently. "Elias," he smiled. "Trust me, Your Majesty." He stepped forward, his entire body glowing as energy gathered around him. The air rippled with heat and force. The soldiers shielded their eyes. Even the enemy ships paused in the sky as sensors,